Good morning. You're listening to The Brief Wake Up, your mindful start to the day. I am Handel, your daily coffee companion, helping you wake up informed, thoughtful, and maybe just a little amused before the day gets old. If you're commuting, corralling kids, or just standing in line for caffeine, you're in the right place. Let's get you caught up. This morning in health, let's talk about colostrum, the supplement suddenly showing up everywhere from fitness podcasts to wellness clinics. Colostrum is the first milk produced after birth. Not regular milk, a concentrated biological signaling fluid packed with antibodies, immune molecules, and growth factors meant to help a newborn adapt to the outside world. The supplement industry sells bovine colostrum from cows, and the promise sounds powerful. Better immunity, faster recovery, muscle growth, even longevity. So what actually survives digestion and works in an adult human body? Here's the key point. Colostrum does not behave like a hormone once you swallow it. Most of its proteins are broken down in the stomach. So it doesn't meaningfully raise growth hormone or IGF-1 in your bloodstream, which means it doesn't directly build muscle the way it's often advertised. But that doesn't mean it does nothing. Where colostrum actually has evidence is the gut. Your intestine is the largest immune organ in the body. It's also a barrier, deciding what enters circulation and what stays out. Some studies show colostrum can reduce intestinal permeability, what people often call leaky gut, particularly in athletes under heavy stress or people with irritation from medications like NSAIDs. And when the gut barrier works better, downstream things can improve. Fewer respiratory infections in endurance athletes, less eye distress during exertion, modest improvement in recovery. Not because it's boosting your immune system globally, but because it's stabilizing the interface between you and the outside world, your intestinal lining. So the marketing message is muscle and hormones. The biology is mucosal repair. For a healthy person looking for performance enhancement or anti-aging, evidence is weak. For someone with frequent GI irritation, heavy endurance training, or post-illness gut disruption, there's a plausible, modest benefit. Colostrum isn't a miracle drug. It's closer to a targeted functional food acting locally in the intestine. And that distinction matters because many supplements fail, not because they have zero biology, but because they're sold for the wrong mechanism. The news is next. In the news, authorities in Canada are investigating a deadly mass shooting that has left 9 people dead and multiple others injured, marking one of the country's most serious acts of gun violence in recent years. Police say the attack unfolded rapidly, with emergency responders arriving to a chaotic scene as victims were still being identified. The suspect has been taken into custody, and officials emphasize there is no ongoing threat to the public, but the motive remains unclear. Canada experiences far fewer shootings than the United States, which is why events like this carry an outsized national impact. When violence occurs in lower frequency environments, communities experience it less as a recurring risk and more as a rupture, something psychologically closer to terrorism than crime. Investigators are now focusing on 3 key questions. First, whether this was targeted or random. Second, whether mental health, ideology, or personal grievance played a role. And third, whether warning signs existed beforehand. Canadian leaders are already signaling a broader review of prevention measures and community threat reporting systems, not just weapon access. Because in many modern attacks, behavior changes precede violence more reliably than any single policy lever. For now, families are being notified, and the community is entering a period of mourning as authorities piece together what happened and why. As details emerge, the focus will shift from shock to prevention. Because after every tragedy, the real question becomes the same. Not only how it happened, but whether it could have been seen coming. We'll continue to follow the developments. Tech and culture is next. In tech and culture this morning, let's talk about dating apps and why the next generation may look less like social media and more like the residency match. A new platform created by Stanford students is spreading quickly across campuses. It's called Date Drop, and it removes swiping entirely. No browsing, no liking photos, no talking to 10 people at once. Instead, once a week, at a specific time, you are given exactly one match. Not suggested, assigned. And the app explains why you're compatible. Users answer dozens of questions, not just hobbies or music, but how they make decisions, handle conflict, tolerate risk, and think about the future. Then the system runs what economists call a stable matching model. Not who do you like, but who is most likely to like each other at the same time. So it doesn't optimize attraction probability, it optimizes mutual interest probability. That sounds subtle, but it's a completely different goal. Traditional apps maximize engagement. This one maximizes commitment likelihood. This idea actually started earlier at Stanford with something called the Marriage Pact. Every year, thousands of students voluntarily join a project where an algorithm assigns them a hypothetical life partner based purely on compatibility modeling. No chatting beforehand, no browsing. Just statistically, this is the person you're most likely to end up happiest with. Originally, it was half joke, half sociology experiment. But something unexpected happened. Many participants actually dated. Some formed long-term relationships. Researchers realized people weren't bad at knowing who they were attracted to. They were bad at choosing in environments with too many options. Modern dating apps create what economists call a choice market. Infinite options, constant comparison, and low commitment. Humans struggle in that environment. We over-prioritize novelty. We undervalue stability. And we keep searching after finding good enough. So the Stanford model flips the structure. Limit choice. Increase psychological investment. Create a shared event. Instead of a private dopamine loop, it becomes a weekly reveal. And paradoxically, removing choice makes people more willing to go on the date. Dating apps have spent a decade optimizing for attention. Now, the first generation raised entirely inside algorithmic platforms is asking a different question. What if the algorithm's job isn't to keep you swiping, but to let you leave? The most successful dating app might be the one you barely use. Because for the first time, Silicon Valley may be trying to solve loneliness. Instead of monetizing it, the lighter roast is next. You ever notice the instant strangers step into an elevator? Everyone turns into the same person. No meeting, no agreement, no leader. But a universal protocol activates. Face the door. Neutral expression. Study the floor numbers like they contain market forecasts. We all collectively decide the other humans in the box don't exist. And it happens everywhere. Offices, hospitals, hotels, airports, across cultures that otherwise disagree about almost everything. So what's going on? It turns out elevator behavior isn't awkwardness, it's social neuroscience. First, your brain runs something called civil inattention. You give a tiny glance, just enough to acknowledge the other person, then immediately withdraw attention. That glance means, I see you. The withdrawal means, I will not engage you. You're signaling safety. Ignoring someone in an elevator is actually politeness. Now add the second problem. Distance. There's a field of behavioral science called proxemics, the study of how humans use physical space. We all have invisible comfort zones. Friends stand closer than strangers. Partners stand closest of all. But elevators shove strangers into your intimate distance, the space normally reserved for people you trust, without emotional permission. Your brain has to compensate. So instead of stepping back physically, you step back socially. You reduce eye contact. You silence speech. You minimize facial expression. Silence becomes psychological space. Then comes evaluation avoidance. You can't leave. They can't leave. Anything you do can be interpreted. Talking invites response. Eye contact invites interaction. Even smiling creates obligation. So the safest behavioral setting becomes neutral human statue. And watch the button moment. Everyone can see the floor is already lit, but someone presses it again. Not because it helps, because when humans share a temporary task, the brain feels compelled to participate. Doing nothing feels socially louder than doing something. Finally, the doors open, and personalities instantly reboot. Phones appear. Voices return. Someone says, "Have a good day." The contract expires. For about 12 seconds, you weren't individuals. You were participants in a tiny cooperative treaty designed to solve a very specific problem: how to share intimate space with strangers without creating intimacy. So we invented a rule all humans seem to understand. We acknowledge each other by pretending not to notice each other. And somehow, ignoring each other became the most polite thing we do all day. Our commemoration is next. February 11th is a date about beginnings, but not all beginnings mean the same thing. In Japan, it marks National Foundation Day, Japan, the legendary birth of the nation and its imperial line, a celebration of continuity and shared identity. But on the same day in 1979, Iran commemorates the victory of the Islamic Revolution, the moment a monarchy fell and a new theocratic government rose, a beginning that reshaped the country's political and personal freedoms for generations. And February 11th also marks democratic turning points elsewhere. In Poland, negotiations that helped end communist rule gathered momentum in early February, part of the movement that would ripple across Eastern Europe. And in South Africa, Nelson Mandela, released from prison, walked free after 27 years, the beginning of the end of apartheid. Same date, different meanings. Some beginnings preserve a nation, some redefine it, and some finally return it to its people. And fittingly, it's also Don't Cry Over Spilled Milk Day. History changes the world, but most days, the best wisdom is still not to panic over what's already happened. Today we covered how biology often works locally while marketing goes global, whether it's supplements promising more than the mechanism, technology trying to solve connection by limiting choice, or humans quietly negotiating shared space in an elevator. We also saw how a single date can hold opposite meanings across the world: founding, revolution, and freedom, reminding us history is less about events than perspective. And maybe the common thread is this: most systems work best when expectations match reality, and life gets easier when we stop fighting what's already happened. This is Dr. Robinson for the Brief Wake Up. Stay calm, kind, and curious. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.